Welcome into Beyond the Press Box. I'm Yash here with my co-hosts and analysts, Zach Kyleman, Cody Emerson, and Will Hatzel. Get ready to hear some great discussion and debates on the biggest storylines in sports. We cover topics ranging from the NFL, the NBA, MLB, college football, and college basketball. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the roundtable discussion between four friends who are passionate sports fans. Before we begin the show, we do want to let you know that through the Unhinged Sports Network, we've partnered with Fubo TV. What is Fubo TV, you may ask? Fubo TV brings you 100 plus channels, including CBS, NBC, Fox, ESPN, and many more without the hassle of a cable contract. Don't believe me? Click the link in our social media bios at Beyond the Press 2 on Instagram and Twitter, and just Beyond the Press Box on Facebook, and start your 7-day free trial today. Fellas, it's draft week. One of the I know we've talked this up. We've talked up to this week a little bit, and I'm excited. I know we're all excited for this NFL draft. So I wanted to kind of start off today's show and kind of the theme of today's show being looking at the draft itself and do kind of our own little mock draft. So wanted to kind of go through all the first round, through all 32 picks in the first round, and kind of give our own take on who we think is going to get drafted to said team on the said pick. So I will begin here, and with the first pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars who have the first pick there, and I think they're going to go with Trevor Lawrence. I think that's the obvious choice there. Zach, what about you? Who do you see as the Jets going with number two?
I'm going to tell you right now, I think the Jets are in a similar position as the Jaguars. They're pretty much set in stone with that pick. It's going to be Zach Wilson. It looked like maybe it was going to be Justin Fields earlier on in the process, but Wilson has overtaken Fields at this point. Really good pro days, so he's kind of locked himself in at 2, and I think he's almost expected to go right after Trevor Lawrence here come Thursday night.
And that Cody,
yeah. So the 40, I think this is where the draft really starts. Reports with the 49ers that they traded up a ton of picks to number 3. The reports have been Mac Jones. I want to preface, this is my opinion and what I think they will do. What they should do, I ultimately think they're going to take Mac Jones. I'm not going to have them taking Mac Jones. I'm going to have them taking my boy Justin Fields out of Ohio State. I know that's probably not what is going to happen, but hey, we're doing our own, and this is our own opinion. So Justin Fields going to San Francisco 49ers.
William, what about you? Who do you see with the Falcons?
And with the 4th pick of the NFL draft, you know what? I've always felt that the Falcons were going to trade this pick. I'm going to change it because a recent developing story of supposedly they're having trade discussions for Julio Jones with some teams. So if they end up trading Julio, doesn't matter who your quarterback is, if it's Matt Ryan or if they go with somebody else, it's probably Matt Ryan still. They are going to need a wide receiver, tight end target. So with all these quarterbacks going in with the first couple of picks, that leaves arguably the best tight end and maybe one of the best, receiving players in general in this draft is Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. So I'm going to say rather than trading that pick away, if they end up trading Julio, I think they're going to go ahead and get Kyle Pitts, and maybe he's the next generation of Julio Jones for the Falcons.
And I've got the Cincinnati Bengals, and now there was a lot of discussion I saw early on about, even Joe Burrow was saying, oh, let's go and get Jamar Chase. He was trying to get Jamar Chase, his old college roommate, or his old college teammate as well at LSU, to come and join him in Cincinnati in the jungle. But I ultimately think the better choice for Cincinnati is to get Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman from Oregon, because if you watched what happened last year with Joe Burrow, he was literally running for his life almost every play. And that's why. I mean, that's why he got. I mean, he got injured in November, and you know, if for Cincinnati, the biggest thing is you have a Tyler Boyd. I mean, you like now AJ Green's gone to Arizona, but I mean, you have T Higgins from Clemson, who you got last year, who had solid production in Cincinnati, and so I think for the Bengals, the biggest thing is you got to protect Joe Burrow, and I think Sewell provides a little bit of protection for Burrow, so he's not running for his life on almost every play next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a pick that I would have gone with if I had that choice. And I think many are starting to lean that way. I know that argument was maybe Jamar Chase. But yeah, that's not, I think, what you need to focus on if you're going to protect a quarterback that just had a destroyed knee last year that ended his season, and he's going to be out for part of the beginning of 2021. Looking at Jamar Chase, though, he's, in my opinion, going to go with the 6th pick over in Miami. There's argument, too, that Jalen Waddle could go here if you wanted. Being one of the best options for receivers right now. The Miami Dolphins need weapons for Tua Tagovailoa. They committed to him in this offseason. They have made no movement in saying that they would want to go for a quarterback anymore, and that doubts kind of went out the window. So at this point, for Tua, it's about growth. It's about developing a young QB. What's the best way of doing that in a roster that's, for the most part, pretty well stacked and finished 10-6, barely missing the playoffs in a very well put together AFC? Well, get him another receiving option to throw to besides Devontae Parker, because I bet Parker would love to have a buddy across from him that can take some pressure away from him if needed. Jamar Chase, who, by the way, sat out and still has the top ranking in many of the boards for receiver, most likely will go here. I mean, the fact that you sit out a season, and he opted out because of COVID issues, and I understand, but the raw talent itself, and I think even just having to take a year off, I think that shows off that this might be your best choice here to go with for someone I think scouts really are high on. Waddle's a great choice too, but I think Chase goes 6th, in my opinion. Miami definitely needs somebody to throw to.
What's interesting about that too is Devontae Smith, his old college teammate as well, was rumored to be going to my. Tua was trying to lobby for him as well. So Jamar, I mean, like you said, Jamar Chase, phenomenal talent, and definitely fits into the Dolphins with Devontae Parker and that receiving group that Tua so desperately needs. But Cody, what about the Lions here?
Well, it's a little bit of a rebuild in Detroit. Got your new coach, you got your new quarterback and Jared Goff, and you got the running game is, for the most part, you got you got weapons right there. You still have Adrian Peterson, DeAndre Swift, Kerryon Johnson. So they got weapons at the running back position. Where they don't have anything is at the wide receiver position. Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, gone. And so you look at this receiving core and you're saying, okay, yeah, you got a new quarterback, but who the hell does he have to throw the football to? That would be almost nobody. So I think we're going to have back-to-back wide receivers taken here. I'm going to go, you can make a case either for Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. I'm going to go Jalen Waddle to Detroit. He is an explosive wide receiver, got blazing speed, and could immediately come in and be probably the number one receiver in Detroit. I know that's a lot of pressure to put on a rookie, but I think he's more than capable of living up to it. So Jalen Waddle going to Detroit.
All right, with number 8, it is the Panthers pick, but with the addition of Sam Darnold, they don't necessarily need to stay there because they're out of the running for a quarterback. And I am going to say that the Bears, my Chicago Bears, I don't know if it's going to work. It'd be the greatest move ever, but I think Ryan Pace is going to be aggressive and they're going to move up. And, recognizing that after the first 3 picks, you may not see any more quarterbacks go. It may be, it's going to be Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, and then a toss up between Trey Lance, Mac Jones, and Justin Fields. I'm going to say the Bears go for number 8 and they're going to draft a quarterback. And I'm going to say that they are going to end up with, and it's so hard because I know I didn't pick the Falcons to trade that pick, but since that's still even a possibility too, I'm trying to figure out who that fifth quarterback might be if Atlanta trades. So I'm going to say that the Bears get Trey Lance because I just don't see how. I'm going to be shocked if Justin Fields and Mac Jones, or if Lance goes before Justin Fields or Mac Jones. Like I feel like in this draft, people are going to feel more comfortable about taking these quarterbacks from the top-notch schools, the more well-known schools, like obviously Ohio State and Alabama. Trey Lance. I got nothing against him. I would be pleased to have him on the Bears, but I personally would rather take somebody that's played from Ohio State or Alabama over North Dakota State. But either way, I think the Bears are drafting up to get a quarterback. I think it's kind of a toss up because you have to see what happens with Atlanta's fourth round pick. And really ultimately who San Francisco ends up getting. But I think the odds are it's going to be Trey Lance because I see the bigger name quarterbacks from the bigger name schools going. So number 8, Bears trade up and they get Trey Lance.
Ooh, that's interesting because I had for number 9 the Broncos looking at a couple mock drafts going Trey Lance. So, and I mean, if you're like, I mean, it makes sense in a way because it's like if you're the Broncos, you look at Drew Lock, and last year 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Made some very poor decisions. If you're John Elway. Trey Lance, I mean, yeah, he's at the FCS level. 2 years ago, had 28 TDs, no interceptions whatsoever. Last year, only played in, I think, 1 or 2 games, had 2 touchdowns and a pick. But, I mean, you have Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, some of these wide and deep receiving core. And, I think, you can't really rely on just looking at what Drew Lock, I don't think you can really truly rely on him as a future at the present moment. I think if you can get Lance at 9, that's the way to go for John Elway and Denver. But Zach, what about Dallas at 10?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Tony Stanielson on our NFL version of my show at Gridiron Gallery, he's been screaming, take Patrick Surtain the second. They need a defensive presence in the secondary for the Cowboys. Patrick Surtain is right now one of, if not the highest ranked in the secondary players released in rankings at this moment. And Alabama is a defensive school. So I would say if you're going to go with someone, the Dallas Cowboys just need to reassure on the, at least in the secondary, they'll need some pieces really bad. Really, you're hoping that Jerry Jones doesn't go for the best available play like he seems to do often. But this one, to me, it's a slam dunk. Go for Patrick Surtain. It's actually one of the most commonly picked across many of the mock drafts on many of the sites and those that are writing for the Cowboys pick. I'd be shocked if Surtain doesn't go here. It almost makes as much sense for a certainty of a pick, I would say, as Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence right now going to the Jets and the Jaguars, respectively.
Okay, so that leaves me with the New York Giants at number 11. And the Giants are interesting because they really need, I'd say a little bit, the Giants offensive line has been hurting us and apparently I'm not a believer in Daniel Jones, but apparently the Giants are, and they want to keep him around. So in order to do that, you need to protect the guy. Giants offensive line, like I said, has been atrocious. So I'm going to go, and will like this pick. I'm going to go Rashawn Slater, the offensive lineman from Northwestern. I've heard, and Will, if you want to do maybe a quick follow-up, you can probably tell us a lot more about him. I know he opted out of this season, I think, but he can play multiple positions, can do basically tackle or guard. He's just a pretty versatile guy. So I'll have him going to the Big Apple with New York.
Yeah, Cody, one of the best offensive linemen in this draft is Slater. Did a crucial job of run blocking and pass protection, does a little bit of it all. Usually you pick guys, one or the other, they're best in pass protection or run blocking. I think he personally, after watching many Northwestern games, was pretty successful with both, and a good reason as to why that Northwestern offense had some life this year. Some of the best performance out of that offense we've seen in the last couple of years. A lot of times we talk about Northwestern defense, but that offensive line was something to be proud of if you were a fan this year. Looking at the 12th pick here with the Eagles, and this pick has gone around a couple of teams from the Dolphins and San Francisco. Now it's with the Eagles, and I think it's going to stay. There's not going to be another trade. I think they're going to go for a wide receiver because the days of Alshon Jeffrey is completely done and over with. He may still play on the team, but they need somebody to be a number one or quickly grow into a number one role. And I like Jalen Waddle personally. I think, and I know I may be veering off of our main mock draft here, but I think like Devontae Smith, there's a good chance Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase are the first couple of actual wide receivers to go ahead in this draft, and I think the Eagles are going to get still one of the more solid guys in this draft. And I'm going to say the Eagles land one of the top guys from Alabama, and that is Jalen Waddle, because again, they need a big time receiver. They haven't had many. Some of the receivers they've drafted recently have not turned out. And Alshon Jeffrey, the guy just can't seem to stay healthy, and I think they need to move on from him sooner rather than later. So Jalen Waddle to Philly.
And I've got the Chargers here with the 13th pick, and I've got Walker Little from Stanford, the offensive lineman, going to Los Angeles. And the reasoning is because Justin Herbert was sacked 32 times last year when he was with the Chargers. So you're going to have to, Brandon Staley and that Chargers coaching staff going to have to bring in some protection for Justin Herbert. And I think Walker Little from Stanford, 309 pounds, he's a big boy, can go in there. Good in run block. He's good at run blocking, good at vertical pass blocking. So, I think you bring in a guy like Walker Little into that Chargers offensive line, can really help beef up the protection, keep Justin Herbert from getting sacked and hitting the ground so often when he drops back. But Zach, what about the Minnesota Vikings here at 15?
Yes, the second
14.
most hated of my teams in the category if I'm a Chicago Bears fan, although the Bears really are making a run for their money, aren't they? For my most hated right now, just self-hatred. No, I'm kidding. We're all love here. But look, for the Minnesota Vikings, this is for their roster and for what they did last year. Defensively, they were young. Defensively, they were flawed. Offensively, they have their identity. They've had their identity now for pretty much since Kirk Cousins has been with Minnesota. It's run first, pass if needed. We all know how Minnesota takes it. So I'm saying on the defensive end, you can go here and add on to what was a god-awful run defense last season. Get yourself one of the top-ranked edge rushers, if you will, to help with contain. Codey Pay out of Michigan. Another school, Big Ten wise, that's excellent for making those type of prospects, either line or on the defensive side of the ball. Daniel Hunter could definitely use a partner in crime, if you will, out in Minnesota. And I bet Mike Zimmer, being, of course, the defensive head coach that he is, I would say he wouldn't mind it either. And again, this is one of the best at the position at that time. There were talks that Minnesota might want to, trade back if they will. So that's a possibility if they like. But if they're going to stick at 14, and I would say, why not, for a defense that needs a position that can at least make another impact and can start turning things in their favor with the Green Bay Packers now back at full strength, really in the lead in the moment in the NFC North. Yeah, I think Pay fits the bill pretty well. And, another rusher to go after a guy like, say, Aaron Rodgers or the Red Rifle, or, go after Jared Goff. Take someone like that, go ahead, build that defense back to what it needs to be. And go and dominate if you can. So pay to me fits the bill perfectly for what Zimmer could do and help rebuild this young defense.
And that brings me to 15. And how I find it nice that we did it to where I can get the Pats. I rumors are they're going to trade up to get a quarterback. Do I think they need to? But I don't. I'm not going to have them doing. I'll have them stick at 15. And once again, these are our picks, our opinions. Not exactly what's going to happen. I'm not having them take Mac Jones. We can have in our draft. We're going to have Mac Jones slip pretty far because I think we all have formed our opinions on Mac Jones, and they're not the greatest. We'll say that to just leave it there. Patriots. I'm going to go corner here because actually no. I stand corrected. They could go corner. They could go potentially linebacker. Guys like J.C. Horn is a potential. He'd be my second option here. I'm going to go with the dude who I think could. I've heard from scouts, Matt Miller being one of them, said he could be the best linebacker in the NFL one day. That's Micah Parsons out of Penn State. He is a versatile, do-it-all linebacker. Patriots need to get a little younger at that position. With Donta Hightower, I think he's coming to the tail end of his time in New England. Obviously, opted out last year. And Micah Parsons is a do-it-all type of guy. So I've heard scouts rave about him. And so I'm going to go, he becomes the newest member of the New England Patriots at 15.
All right. Well, with the 16th pick of the NFL draft, the Arizona Cardinals are going to select another Wildcat, go Cats, and that's going to be Greg Newsome, cornerback. This is another guy that was a mainstay on the defense of Northwestern, a guy that could get you interceptions, and it was tough for any wide receiver to break off his coverage. And Arizona's entering a new era. Patrick Peterson was not re-signed. Patrick Peterson goes to Minneapolis to go play with the Vikings. And when I look at, again, that team, they've invested so much, I think, offensively over the last couple of years that, when you're a team that's to the point where, okay, we got our quarterback, we got our running back, we got our, we built an offensive line, we got some weapons for the quarterback to throw to. They went ahead and, they got JJ Watt, a huge, upfront signing for that defense. Well, now you got to take a look at the secondary. And again, Greg Newsome, a guy who's a junior, by the way. So, he's highly touted before his college career technically ends. So he is moving on. And this is a guy that is definitely worth a look at it being a first round pick. A guy that, again, like I said, good in coverage. He's got a good overall skill set. And this is a guy that you're going to see him grab some interceptions. So, and, a Hall of Fame like cornerback like Patrick Peterson, somebody big has to fill those shoes. And I'm confident that without much bias, that Greg Newsome can get the job done.
And with the 17th pick, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, I think the Raiders here go offensive lineman. And they get Tevin Jenkins, I believe is the name there. I know he's good in creating holes with the run game. Can really help elevate Josh Jacobs' game. The phenomenal season that Jacobs had last year can really help elevate what Josh Jacobs did, and can help again protect Derek Carr. Derek Carr had 27 sacks, I believe. Got sacked 27 times, last year. So, if you want to prolong Derek Carr's career and elevate him in Las Vegas, then, you bring in a guy like Tevin Jenkins, and he can thrive under the Gruden offense. He can be a Gruden grinder. I know Cody could get that reference.
The Gruden grinders.
But Zach, what about the Dolphins here at 18?
Well, I get the second Dolphins pick in this first round. And, I said earlier with the Jamar Chase choice that they need to get weapons for Tua Tagovailoa. And here's the thing I'll say as well. Running backs in the first round generally don't go very high. They'll go mid, some will go mid round. Really the top sensational ones that are like dead top guys, ones that are considered like once in a lifetime talents are usually ones that are going higher up. I'm talking, and by the way, when I mean higher up, I'm meaning like top 10 picks. Running backs generally stay in the bottom 16 as of last few years, mainly because the NFL has been undervaluing running backs coming out of the draft. I think that is changing though. And I think starting with this year, you're going to see Najee Harris go number 18 to the Miami
Really?
Dolphins. If we're talking about giving Tua the best possible chance to succeed, you are going to get one of the best receivers, which the receiving class in this draft is insane. We're not talking about as
One
much
of
because the QB
one of the
class is
best hurdlers
crazy
too.
too.
I don't know if you
What's
saw
that?
it. I said one of the best hurdlers too. He can hurdle
Oh, absolutely.
multiple people.
I mean, he's an athletic freak, and we all laugh. We all talk about how Derrick Henry is that way. Imagine Derrick Henry, but he has much better hands. That's how I describe Najee Harris. So the fact that you can get a Derrick Henry archetype that is a much better pass catcher than Derrick Henry has been in his career, I mean, Tua has to be smiling that he gets to work with an ex-teammate in this case, but also the fact that Najee Harris is the best running back prospect in this draft. Put that together with possibly landing the best receiving prospect in this draft. The Dolphins were already gaming everyone as it is. They're continuously going to be gaming people if they land two offensive studs to give to Tua. And honestly, if Tua doesn't develop with these guys along with Devontae Parker, then this is basically everything for them. So Najee is the way that to unlock the Dolphins offense to its full potential, I think, along with a Jamar Chase or a Jalen Waddle. That's why you're going to go with them right here. And again, I think Najee Harris is going to be the first of the next few years where we're finally stopping with NFL teams undervaluing running backs. It seems like we went through a lull the last 5 seasons, and then now we've seen with the likes of Derrick Henry getting back to larger term contracts, getting more trust with running backs, getting money. That's why I made the quote earlier. This is the start to getting back to that. Najee Harris is definitely worth this choice at 18.
Well, the Washington football team, they are in a little bit of a dilemma at a key spot. That would be quarterback. You have Fitz magic / tragic, however you want to phrase it. You have Taylor Heineke. I'm going to say they make this competition a bit more interesting. I know we devalued Mac Jones a little bit. I don't think he slips into the 20s. I'm going to have Washington taking him right here. I mean, do they know if Heineke's the answer? Not really. And how many years does Fitz magic / tragic have left in him? This is probably his, I would assume, last year or two, maybe. So I think you just get two young guys in there and Heineke and Mac Jones and let them battle it out for the spot or for the future of the franchise, really. So Washington football team they're going to have a 3-team race at that starting quarterback position, and then they take Mac Jones.
All right. So since the Bears would have been taking this pick if I didn't call for the big bold trade, which I'm kind of hoping it happens. I really do.
Yeah,
I'd
what's
like to
going
get a
on
quarterback
now?
in this
You have to
draft.
get that landed, right?
Please. Please. But anyway, so that means Carolina's dropped back to 20. And hey, they, like I said, they got the quarterback. They got Sam Darnold. Now, they did invest 2 years ago in a second-round pick on Greg Little that can play left tackle, but that doesn't mean you can't stack up on offensive linemen still, since Carolina doesn't really have that full 5-man front figured out. And a guy that I've seen in quite a few mock drafts areas, a guy that the Bears could have very well have picked if they stayed at 20 and opted not to go for quarterback or a different position, would be from Virginia Tech offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw. Again, this is a guy that gives them the best a greater opportunity to protect Sam Darnold in his new environment, his new home. You want to protect your prized quarterback. And again, Sam Darnold is going to need to probably take some time to, they still got to work with him. They still got to make him better. It's not like he's a great quarterback that was just on a bad team. He's a struggling quarterback on a struggling team. So one of the best ways to help get your new quarterback comfortable is to make sure you could block for him. And obviously, hopefully he could do some run blocking too, some run protection, because hopefully if you get a healthier Christian McCaffrey this year, they're going to want to run the ball a lot too. So that offensive line, I know an offensive line is important for every team. Doesn't matter what team you are, but I look at a team like Carolina that could be better than what they've been the last couple of years, because I mean they arguably have the best, if not second best, running back in the league if you want to argue about Derrick Henry and some of the other guys. But I mean McCaffrey is a stud. If he could stay healthy, that guy should be able to make Sam Darnold's life a lot easier. So it seems like Carolina's trying to invest in their offense more and kind of round it out. And you acquired your quarterback, you got some wide receivers. Protect that quarterback so he could utilize those wide receivers and make sure that offensive line could also block for, again, one of the most explosive players in the NFL to date. So I'm going with Christian Darrisaw to the Carolina Panthers.
For the Colts, I mean, you re-signed T.Y. Hilton, you got Carson Wentz, you've got Michael Pittman, and so I think with Carson Wentz, him as well having trouble in terms of in Philly with protection and with getting sacked and getting rushed on his throws. I think you bring in again. I hate to harp on. I feel like I'm harping on all the offensive linemen here, but I think you got to get a guy like Alex Leatherwood from Alabama. Has multiple years of starting experience in the SEC, and I think he can good run blocker. Can really help, and especially because the Colts just lost. He retired. Anthony Costanzo retired, so I think that can help fill the void of the loss of Anthony Costanzo's to bring in a guy like Leatherwood into that offensive line, so I think that's the best fit for Indianapolis to bring in a guy like Leatherwood.
Never go wrong with an Alabama lineman.
Yep.
That is one thing I would also say is a guarantee. Alabama, just overall great in most positions. Got to credit that program, right? One of the top ones that always consistently has it. I get to pick for Yash's Tennessee Titans here.
Yeah,
so
I'm excited.
We'll see if Yash agrees with me. Yeah, we'll see what you think here. So you just picked up the Colts draft before, they got the rivals, and we're talking offensive line. So you got to have someone to attack that old line to get the Carson Wentz. My take is, what are the Titans weakest at? Well, defensively, they're weak most places, but right now it's pass rush in particular. Okay.
True.
You can do what you need, but the Titans, the last two seasons, since they have been getting a resurgence with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry on the opposite side of the ball, have been laughable at best, I would say, when it comes to pass rush. So since you already have Kwity Paye already off the board, you're going to go for the second best option, which I wouldn't say isn't even that bad of a second best. Georgia makes some pretty damn good defense edge rushers, if I would say. So let's go for Azeez Ojari from Georgia, who had 9.5 sacks last year. He was dominant in the Peach Bowl, by the way. That's where he got a lot of highlights and actually helped seal that game against Cincinnati, mind you. Pretty much a stud. Georgia, they make him well. Kirby Smart definitely has got his program going back, and Georgia's one of the tops in the SEC again, thanks to him.
And where did
Georgia's been building
Kirby Smart derive from? From the Nick Saban
Alabama
coaching tree. So
exactly,
all roads lead back to Alabama, I guess.
And darn right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's been a really good program. If you don't in the SEC terms, if you don't think Alabama, Georgia's usually the next best thing when it comes to defensive prospects. And honestly, Ojlari, and I keep saying it wrong, it's Ojlari, has had some great highlights. Is definitely that motor type of edge rusher, definitely has that drive to get back there every play. The Titans desperately need someone like that, and considering Jadeveon Clowney didn't really pan out last year, I think they really need to go in on that spot to help at least with helping with the secondary. Generally, a pass rush helps really well with the secondary most for most teams. So getting the QB essential, especially in the AFC South.
Yeah, no, and as much as it's it's your rival team, Cody. What do you see how do you see the Jets picking here with the next pick?
Yeah, I'm not going to be that guy that makes an awful pick just to have him just to make the Jets a little worse. I don't do that, but Zach touched on the running. I'm surprised that Najee Harris is with the Dolphins. I'm surprised that Zach went that route. Zach, you probably ticked off some Steeler fans there because I know a ton of mock drafts that I've been looking at. That's who the Steelers have been selecting. So I will stick also with the running back theme. And the Jets, Frank Gore, as much as we would all love him to play till he's probably 50, 60 years old, we all know that's not going to happen. He's going to retire, I would imagine, here in the next year or two. Is he still under contract with the Jets, correct?
Yes, I believe he still is.
That's what I thought. I mean, even if he wasn't, this would make my pick. That would support my pick even more. I'm going to go Travis Etienne from Clemson. This dude, I think, from watching him play, Ohio State's seen Clemson enough over the last few years that I've gotten familiar with Travis Etienne. This dude is I personally think he's a touch better than Najee Harris. I know they're both 1 and 2. You could flip them either way. I have Etienne just slightly above him. He is a dynamic back that I think he's a bit better pass catcher. He's more elusive and quick. And so the Jets need to get younger at that position, help out Zach Wilson. Give him a guy who can he can check it down to, or where he's not throwing, 30, 40 times a game. He can hand it off to a guy like ETN. So the Jets get younger at both quarterback and running back and kind of restarting their offense with taking Travis Etienne, running back out of Clemson.
Oh, Cody, I hate you because that was going to be my pick for the Steelers. Okay, look, I think the two most important positions for the Steelers to target would be running back and center. James Conner, I believe he went to the Cardinals. They're moving on from him because he never really was he never turned out to be the impactful running back they thought he could be after Le'Veon Bell left. Well, Marquise Pouncey retired too, so they do need the center position figured out. They're going to need a replacement, but I really think they should and will strongly consider a running back because look, they have wide receivers. They were able to retain Juju Smith-Schuster. This is a team that they're going to go through a quarterback transition pretty soon. I'm surprised they didn't do it this year, but Big Ben wants to keep playing. I guess they're willing to hold out another year with him. And who knows? Maybe Pittsburgh still drafts a quarterback in this round as a developmental project, or this draft this year as a developmental project. We'll see. So as much as going off of this, if Mr. Travis goes to the Jets, damn it, Cody, I'm gonna go with Javonte Williams, running back out of North Carolina. This is a guy that nobody talks about. I've heard his name come up, but I mean, obviously, he's not talked about as much as Harris and Mr. Travis and a couple of other running backs. But I look at Javonte Williams, and this is a guy he's gotten better as his career went on. I mean, his junior year here, I mean, over 1,100 rushing yards, 19 touchdowns, and quite frankly, what they need, the Steelers need a solid running back that they can rely to hand the ball off to, so Big Ben doesn't have to do that much this year, or whenever they end up handing the reins off to a younger quarterback. This is a guy that he could average you 6 or 7 yards to carry. He could get some touchdowns. I mean, you could give him a boatload of work. Again, when you have a younger quarterback or a banged up old quarterback, you may have a running back that sees 25 carries or more a game. And because outside of James Conner, I don't really know who else the Steelers had or who's really a great backup, a great backup. So I think in this draft, they're going to need to go for a guy that could start and play right away. And I look at a guy like Javonte Williams, who I think has a solid opportunity to maybe be a Jordan Howard-esque running back. I look at him, he's kind of built like Jordan Howard from what I see. He packs some power to, powerful punch. He's got some muscle on him. So it's not going to be James Conner, who seemed to struggle to even average like 3 yards a game. This guy could break through some tackles. This guy, I think, could do a better job in Pittsburgh than what we've seen from running backs the last couple of years in Pittsburgh. So yeah, as much as they have a hole at the center position, I think that they're going to go more. They're going to go with the more flashy pick and get Williams.
I was gonna say Wyatt Davis. I know Cody will like that for Ohio State, but I'm gonna jump off the little offensive line bandwagon that I've been on, but because although Trevor Lawrence, yes, he does need help on that offensive line in Jacksonville. I'm gonna go with Trayvon Moehrig, the safety from TCU. He's listed as a safety, but he can also play the corner position as well, and he's very good with covering the deep ball. So I think that can really help the Jaguars defensively. And like I said, I think that Moehrig really a versatile guy. You bring in a young versatile safety who can also play the corner position, cornerback being partially the weak spot on that defensive side of the ball for Jacksonville. And I think if you can bring in a guy like Moehrig, then can really help take the load and pressure off the secondary a little bit. Knowing his versatility and what he's able to do on the defensive side of the ball itself. But like I said, Trevor Lawrence still needs help on that offensive side of the ball as well. So I think, Jacksonville, really, you could go either way with this one as well. But Zach, what about the Browns? They just picked up my former Titan there. You mentioned him earlier, Jadeveon Clowney. So who the Browns going now that they have Clowney on that defensive line and Myles Garrett? Who do you think the Browns will pick up?
Sure. I mean, that's kind of a key in there is, look, the Cleveland Browns, that is something that they're stockpiling, and this is a free agent ways that they've been doing as well. I mean, think about it. They had John Johnson they picked up as well. They got Troy Hill to shore up the other side of that secondary with Denzel Ward. This is a team that wants to make sure in an AFC that has heavy firepower that they're going to be able to take that next step, and that it's going to rely on, of course, an offense that has many weapons, along with a Baker Mayfield that showed that he had gains last season. So how do you shore up that defense? Well, their weakest spot right now on that defense is actually the second level in the linebacking core, if I were to be honest. Jadeveon Clowney does boost that four down line, if you will, but I think that you're going to need somebody that's an impact player. There's not really on their roster anyone that I would say is an impact at the linebacking core. So looking at the big board, we've already had two go off. Now we're going to go to Tulsa. We're going to pick up Zaven Collins, Bronco Nagurski Award winner, 3-time starter. Funny enough, I was looking up his bio out of curiosity. In high school, he actually was a quarterback and also played in defense as well, and switched over to linebacker when he went over to college. So he's definitely a prospect that at this point, if you're the Browns, you're looking at what's best available, and a position that I think is a instant fill that would add a spark to a defense that already is getting retooled on the fly this offseason. You might as well add a piece that at least instantly upgrades it to make it all around that defense has had a refresh or a new coat of paint. So Zaven Collins out of Tulsa, definitely a person that I would be looking at. And considering that Tulsa plays in the American Athletic Conference, which in my opinion is severely underrated when it comes to college prospects and, of course, the competitiveness, I think that's someone that's going to come in and surprise people. So definitely keep your eyes on him. I think the Browns will look to make a splash in the linebacking department with the top two out of the board. They'll go for number 3.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens. It's been well documented how, let's put it honestly, how bad the receiving core has been. So the run on wide receivers in this in our mock draft continues. I am going to take for the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to get Lamar Jackson. Whoops, sorry, I cut out there. I'll start it again. I'm going to get Lamar Jackson, a guy who could arguably be one of the most dynamic and receivers in this draft. That's going to be Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. This dude is, from what I've been reading from guys like Daniel Jeremiah, from Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, this guy is rising and rising fast. He's just an all-around do-it wide receiver. I mean, Ole Miss, really think, has had produced some. They're starting to become a wide receiver school. I mean, look at people. I think forget DK Metcalf came from Ole Miss, and now you got Elijah Moore. So get Lamar Jackson, a dynamic wide receiver, and Elijah Moore from Ole Miss going to Baltimore.
Yeah, a lot
About
of
them, who dat? How about them Saints?
yeah, who dat going to be their quarterback? Now they basically have that figured out, even though I'm sure they're still feeling a little bit bad, a little sad about not having Drew Brees anymore. But now it's going to be who dat going to be their linebacker. They're thin at that position right now, and I think again, if you're the Saints, you're excited to see so many wide receivers and cornerbacks and quarterbacks and maybe some offensive linemen go in this draft, because really, I think you're going to see a lot of defensive players get overlooked, and a guy that could be crucial to them. You know, a lot of people like to go for linebackers that could provide a pass rush. I think that Saints already have a decent pass rush. A guy from Notre Dame stands out that could do a little bit more than just the pass rush and could be more of a guy that you could line up against slot receivers, and a guy that you could have be able to take on in the run game, be able, when the outside runs come, he could, pop up and stuff of a running back at the line of scrimmage. And that's from Notre Dame, Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, if I'm saying that right. Apologize if I'm not, but he does just that. Again, what we pride ourselves with a pass rush and linebackers that could get to the quarterback. Well, you need guys that could play well in pass coverage too. A linebacker has to play that zone defense sometimes as well. How many times do you see a linebacker get burned, off of a slot receiver? That's one thing I don't think we have a lot in the NFL these days, is linebackers that have speed. And that's the joy. That's one of the greater things about drafting, because you get these younger players that are quicker and have that speed. And a guy like Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, can't say that 3 times fast. A guy like him could do something on that defense other than what they already have. So many guys on that defensive line could be the pass rushers. Get a guy that you could throw out there to either, stuff the run, or get in that zone coverage or man-to-man coverage, and maybe try to keep up with a tight end or, a slot wide receiver.
Especially when you're in the same now division, especially when you're going up against Tom Brady's Bucks, in that division,
exactly
the stacked team that they have out there in Tampa.
Exactly. They might need a couple of those kind of linebackers then, because there's so many damn receivers that Tom Brady could throw to. But yeah, it's going to be defense, believe it or not, in this draft, I think, for the Saints.
Hey, and with the 29th pick here with Green Bay, how about we get Aaron Rodgers an actual weapon? Last year they drafted Jordan Love.
Why would that make any sense?
I know but Cody, you went with Elijah Moore. I'm going with the other Moore.
I know where you're going with this one.
Rondale Moore.
Oh, I still have nightmares about him. He's in my nightmares.
Freshman year had.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
What, 1,200 receiving yards? A versatile receiver can join Devontae Adams in that receiving core, and actually give Aaron Rodgers somebody to throw to other than the go-to guy in Adams. Also, Allen, he can also join Allen Lazard there. Allen Lazard's been kind of that short pass guy for Aaron Rodgers. But, if you can get a speedster like Rondale Moore, it'll take a little more attention off of Devontae, and can help Aaron Rodgers and that Packers offense tremendously instead of going out and doing what they did last year and drafting a quarterback. Because you see what that did to Aaron Rodgers this year. They drafted Jordan Love, and he had one of
It only turned him into an MVP.
yeah, it only turned him into an MVP. So I bet Aaron Rodgers is praying they draft another quarterback so he can have another phenomenal season. But I think they go with Rondale Moore from Purdue here. Makes the most sense for them and provides support for Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, you would think they go for a receiver, and I mean this year definitely would make a lot of sense. Again, it's a really great receiving class, so there's many options later in this later first round for them
Well,
too.
Matt LaFleur,
God, I'm glad I didn't have to pick the Packers.
he didn't
That's all
go
I'm saying.
for it there on that final play in the NFC Championship game. He decided to kick the field goal, so you never know where he might go, and you never know how because I know, like I've mentioned before, I think Aaron Rodgers. There's a rumor that Jeopardy may offer him the job, and if they do, you don't have Aaron Rodgers, so who knows what could happen here. But I think they go receiver.
He'll wait till his retirement at some point, and I'll be okay watching him on Jeopardy. Then I'll tolerate him if he's the host there, and he's done admirable job. So, I'll give him credit. Even though he's a cheesehead, it's fine.
Well, I get to the Bills. You have your former quarterback, Mitch Trubisky.
But luckily I don't have to talk about him as the threat there, so we can just bench that instantly. Thanks for bringing that up for a moment, Yash. I appreciate it, but I'm tabling that instantly because I don't want to talk about Mitch anymore. I'm done talking about him. He's gone from Chicago. What I want to talk about is what the Bills really need, and that is they need someone to be best buds with Tre'Davious White, because White can't do it all on that defense. He is one of the top cornerbacks right now in the NFL. But my goodness, you need somebody else. And again, an AFC that has the most firepower out of the two conferences. You're going to have to find someone to play in that secondary that is opposite of White. So looking in this draft, I'm going to go with Asante Samuel Jr., who is going to be going over there. A bit of a connection anyway with Sean McDermott anyway. So I would say he goes to Buffalo. You give an option that is one of the better cornerbacks in this draft that is going to go over there from Florida State, and that should be an instant upgrade for Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo, much like the Tampa Bay Bucks, re-signed pretty much everyone that they needed from last year. And I think really it's just all about what upgrades do you need to be that one step above the Kansas City Chiefs, or of course in the AFC East, to maintain what you already have. Honestly, secondary kind of needed a bit of improvement. Someone could probably argue that you get the front seven a little more juice, but I think you give someone that at least can cover the opposite side of the field, and you don't have to worry about lining up Tre'Davious White and having to worry about someone scheming away from him. So that's where I go with. Give me Junior there.
And they've got Josh Norman on the other side of the field there.
But you see, Norman, I know there's Norman's over there, but Norman is not his prototypical self. He's not in his prime anymore. You're going to have to get someone over there that I think is definitely more of a threat. And
you saw what Derrick Henry did to him last year.
Yeah, I mean, everyone saw what Derrick Henry did to that man.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, we're talking the run game. I don't know if Asante Samuel Jr. would have had a different tackle, at least in that situation. But look, Norman, he was on a 1-year deal. I have not seen him get re-signed or signed anywhere else. To me, the Buffalo Bills, they found Norman as a stopgap. So Samuel makes a lot of sense here to get someone that's more of a permanent moving forward position filler. And I think with White in his prime at the moment, you need someone that can learn from the best and can become one of the better ones and stop, guys like Patrick Mahomes, or even if Tua steps up, or, whoever the New England Patriots get, of course, or if it happens to be Zach Wilson, you're going to need somebody else that can play the other side.
And Will, what about the Ravens? The Ravens just gave up, Orlando Brown to the Chiefs. So Where do you see the
You
Ravens?
can't
Or not
skip
Will,
me,
sorry.
Yash.
Cody. That's
It's
what I
like, wait a
meant.
minute.
I was gonna
Well, I mean,
say.
I'm
my
okay
bad,
with
hold
going
on a
because
minute.
Cody's probably going to pick the
Sorry,
guy I want,
sorry.
just like earlier.
I I'm just going through all these different
It's
these
okay. I'm
different
trying to remember
prospects
everything
and
you guys are picking. I probably screwed it up. So
my bad. That's my bad. Cody.
Hey, it's all good. Well, you know what? Let's double down. And like I said, I had the Ravens with the 27th pick, and I have them again because they got that pick from Kansas City. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they go offensive line here to maybe kind of sure up that spot that Orlando Brown, because that dude was a phenomenal Pro Bowler for Baltimore for a long time and was one of the main reasons why Lamar Jackson has been as successful as he has. But once again, I said I'm going to double down. Let's get Lamar some more help at the wide receiver spot. How about a wide receiver that is not getting talked about as much and I still think is an absolute freak of nature? And that's Terrence Marshall Jr. from LSU. I'm telling you, these LSU receivers are something else. You just turn on his highlight tape, and yeah, he had Joe Burrow throwing him the football. But watch the national championship game against Clemson. When LSU just absolutely obliterated them. I think he had over 200 yards receiving, and he might have had 2 or 3 touchdowns. This dude is an absolute stud. And with already Elijah Moore and Marquise Brown there, you also have Mark Andrews right there. So he wouldn't be, the number 1, number 2 guy. So he could kind of fit in and go against probably number 2 or number 3 corners. So I think just you have to give Lamar help. And so I just think you would go with Terrence Marshall, wide receiver out of LSU, and completely revamp that receiving core.
Those LSU wide receivers getting a lot of recognition here. You talk about Marshall, Jamar Chase is getting a lot of buzz around him, and now Justin Jefferson. Just today, I think Fortnite announced his touchdown dance is going to be in the new Fortnite mode. So, look at those LSU receivers getting some notable looks. But
I'm glad that was NFL news today.
yeah, I know. I saw that and I was like, wow, that's
slow day, huh?
First NFL player to ever be in a video game, in a Fortnite video, in the Fortnite video game. Excuse me, not in a video game. I meant.
Oh no, Madden's gone.
Madden's gone. Wow,
Madden?
like no, but Will, what do the Buccaneers really need here? The Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, another case of the rich get richer, huh? I will say this, even though it seems like they're pretty stacked in most positions, especially that defense, which is full of a lot of great veteran talent up front for pass rush in the front 7, and then you have that young secondary that I'm sure they're going to continue to ride or die with because they continue to develop well and progress. They are going to need to look to invest in some younger pass rushing help. They were able to re-sign the 3 big guys. William Golston, they were able to keep him around, but he's 29 years old. Ndamukong Suh, they were able to re-sign him, but he's 34 years old. And then you have Jason Pierre-Paul, able to keep him, but he's 32. So you got a lot of aging veterans, which isn't necessarily bad to have, but you have these veterans that are going to be reliable to obviously play every snap. Now's the time. Maybe you go and draft a young guy that you could develop and maybe not necessarily have to throw to the Tigers right away and have to be out there every single play. But a guy I like would be from Miami, edge rusher Gregory, and who the heck knows if I'm saying this right, so forgive me, but Gregory Rousseau. This is a guy that could play in the 5 technique, and also, again, he could kind of come in and be that substitute when Golston or Ndamukong Suh need a breather. He could come in here and play for them. He could also stand up at times and, again, would be able to replace and fill in a void if, Jason Pierre-Paul needs to come out for a breather or whatnot. Now, Pierre-Paul I believe he's a free agent again in 2022. So maybe Gregory Rousseau, whatever, however you say it, sorry, could maybe be the future replacement for Jason Pierre-Paul. But again, the nice thing is, I'll call him by his first name, Gregory, could maybe again coming off the bench fill in various times for Pierre-Paul or Sue or Golston, and then eventually maybe a year or two from now, if one of those three guys were to retire or leave in free agency, you can figure out where to put him. Would he best be suited to replace Golston or Sue in the five technique, or would he be better to stand up as an edge rusher like Pierre Paul, who actually could get in the 3-point technique as well? But so you kind of have some options with a guy like Gregory, as I'm just going to keep putting myself out there to get blasted. But Gregory Rousseau, this is a guy that I like the flexibility he could have, and it might be better off in the long term of his career to find where he best could match and fit in with this defense. But yes, the rich will get richer, and the Buccaneers have a good opportunity here to invest in another great young, flexible edge rusher.
No, and like you mentioned there, JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, and a couple of those defensive linemen getting older. They're aging, but so you gotta invest in the young and new talent. Although Tom Brady, although he's aging, he's still performing at such a high level that it doesn't seem like he's 44 or 43 years old. So, but no, that's, I mean, I think Rousseau will do a good job if he's in Tampa to provide that extra boost of pass rush for the Buccaneers. Can only increase their chances. They're going for two. That's Bruce Arians' new slogan for the Buccaneers. They're going for two. They're not going back to back. They're going for two. So, hopefully, we'll see how that will play out. But he only increases and adds to the Buccaneers' chances of repeating or going for two in LA next year when the Super Bowl's in Los Angeles. I think in SoFi Stadium, if I'm not mistaken there.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good good pick there, Will. I think that concludes, I think, the first round of the NFL draft there. That'll be Thursday night. I'll be on my if I'm not working that day, I'll be on my television from 7 p.m. until whenever the night ends, and I'll be on Twitter. I know, we have Adam Schefter's notifications lined up there, and so I know my phone will be buzzing no matter
I
what.
may turn mine off
with
because I
with
don't
Schefter
want
notifications.
to be. I hate it with the NBA.
Yeah,
When
Woj.
as I know Woj and Shams, they have to do their jobs and whatnot, obviously.
Yeah.
But damn it, I want to be kind of surprised and whatnot. So I kind of on draft nights, whether that be NBA, NFL, whatever, I kind of just either one mute my phone or two just turn their notifications off just for that day.
Yeah.
Just because I want to kind of I don't want a tweet spoiling, what could happen.
I think that's a good strategy.
Oh,
I've had the same issue happen with other events too. Actually, in 2016, Game 7 of the World Series, that actually was something I got. My friends told me actually to shut my phone off because I was getting the scoring notifications a second or two before, and this is because of television, so you have the delay. But I would kind of like spoil it or like basically get like, oh my god, like freaking out. And especially how that game ended, I had to shut my phone off and put it away so I didn't see anyone else or have any other notifications come up. So the draft's one of those it's really good to do that for. It's just to put your phone aside. Yeah,
no, definitely. Especially after you get past like the first, like the top five, top three, top five picks. Like we said, this draft, you never know who's going to go where and who's going to match up. And Zach, I think you said it too, right? Like not all the mock drafts are going to be like not any of those mock drafts are going to be 100% perfectly
Oh, good
correct.
God. I
It'll
I
be
can't tell you if I ever known of a mock draft that was 100% right. It's kind of like
yeah,
it's
it's
kind
kind
of
of
like
like the
doing March Madness
NCAA. Yeah,
tournament
yeah, that's what I
brackets.
was going to say. Yeah, you you never really can truly predict every single game correctly. But that being said, I mean, you look at some of these I had on there. Some of these guys that are going to go late. We just talked about the first round, but there's a lot of talent. Cody knows this with the Patriots. A lot of talent when you
Why
get
would
into
I
the
know that?
the sixth round,
What are you
seventh
talking
round.
about?
I mean, you just drafted a guy by the name of Tom Brady back in 2000. Does that ring a bell at
Never heard
all?
of him. No
Uh,
idea who you're talking about.
and then you proceeded to draft a guy in the sixth round, I believe, or the seventh round. If correct me if I'm wrong, Julian Edelman, who just
Nah,
retired, who
these
had
names
a
don't ring a
hell
bell,
of a
Yash. Can
hell
you
of a
describe them to me?
yeah, hell of a career as a Patriot. One of the best playoff receivers in playoff history. Um, you know, but that I mean, there's a lot of talent in those late rounds, fifth round, sixth round. Our own, I'll give a shout out to our the Mac, our own Ball State Cardinal, Danny Pinter, got drafted in the fifth round by the Colts, and he had a phenomenal season protecting Phillip Rivers this past season. So shout out to our alma mater, Ball State, and to Danny Pinter with the Colts now, but with that being said, I want to talk about some of these guys who are going to go late. I put a Bleacher Report article up on some of these late round sleepers, but what are some guys you think could go late that could have a big impact or immediate impact on their respective teams that they potentially will go to?
I'll hop in, and I'm going to tell you one thing right now. The first name that stuck out to me as I of course am studying up what we're going to do with this segment actually came while I was doing the mock draft picks. So Patrick Surtain, as we know, is from Alabama, is played in Alabama, so you play against the SEC. In his bios, one of the players that was mentioned that he was burned by or actually played pretty well, it sounds like, against him was Josh Palmer out of Tennessee. Palmer is definitely a deep threat if you're looking at his stats and per catch yardage. Someone that right now is very much a late rounder. It sounds like he'll be sixth or seventh round at best at the moment. But if you're, I mean, the SEC is filled with top tier talent. And I'm just thinking if you're getting mentioned as burning arguably the best cornerback in this year's draft, you might be having something. And not to mention, as Yash may know, Tennessee hasn't exactly had a consistent program or anything to really, I would say, live up to the hype as of late. Palmer, I would say, is making the best of the situation he's been given for that SEC school. And I think he might be able to surprise some people. I definitely hit from everything I've seen when it comes to intangible size, agility. He has the speed, as we're mentioning about Surtain. That's someone I'm looking out for just from a quick glance of getting my mock draft together. If you're being mentioned as, players that are able to go against some of the best and do their thing, I think that, you might be able to break in some way. And there's always going to be that late round receiver that breaks out. It seems to happen every year. And I think that maybe Palmer is that option that I'm going to go with right off the bat.
Yeah, I think one of the best positions in terms of where you could see some guys, some late round guys that could end up turning heads is the wide receiver position. Palmer was a guy I was going to bring up, but you said enough on him. I'll just say this quickly: he may not have put up tons of great stats. He only scored 7 touchdowns. He never once breached over the 500-yard mark in his 3 years, but the guy averaged 15.3 yards per catch in all those years in college. So I mean, yeah, maybe he's not your number one target, but and just looking at pictures of him and highlights of him, I mean, he's kind of a big muscular receiver, so he could be that guy that gets up and go. He's a get up and go get it kind of guy when you're looking to air it out for maybe 15 or 20 yards. So a guy like that definitely has a chance to really step out. Another guy, Cade Johnson, out of South Dakota. This is a guy that you talk about a guy per catch. I was just talking about Palmer with per catch. Mr. Johnson here averaged a little over 18 per catch during the 2018 and 2019 season. So, yeah, that's pretty damn impressive. Maybe a little bit of a smaller build. I mean, he's only 184 pounds, 5'11". So, but he has smooth route running, some explosiveness, and an ability to make big plays after the catch. So, I mean, if he's like a Darnell Mooney-esque kind of guy, I mean, that's one of the easiest guys I could relate to from the Bears personally. That not big in size, but he makes up for it with his speed and craftiness and what he could do after he catches the ball or to break away to get himself open in order to make a play. And lastly, the one guy I want to mention is from a different position would be running backs. A running back, and that's Javian Hawkins from Louisville, who again, he's not doesn't wow you with his size. He's 5'8", 183 pounds, but his explosiveness and versatility will wow you. In just 23 games at the Power 5 program, 2,355 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns, averaged just about 6 yards per carry. He only caught 21 passes during his time there, or those 21 passes kind of indicate maybe a potential dual threat. What I look at him is like comparing him to a potential NFL player that he could turn out to be or mold himself into, would be maybe like another Tariq Cohen, where maybe he's not the number one running back for a team, but use that speed and explosiveness for punt returns, kickoff returns, and also being that number 2, number 3 back that's going to be out there for screen plays, some trick plays, and just a guy when you need a little bit of inject a little bit of a jolt of energy into your offense. Maybe this is the kind of guy you look at. And again, there's quite a few running backs that I think are going to deserve a nod, or at least a chance to get looked at in this draft. And since we're so obsessed with quarterbacks and running backs, or quarterbacks and wide receivers and even linemen, I think that, as you said earlier, Zach, it's these running backs that always get slept on in the drafts, but there's quite a few of them that end up, etching out decent careers in the league, even if they're not Hall of Fame-esque careers and high stat producing guys. I mean, you could still make a living being a Tariq Cohen type of running back in this league. And Hawkins, I think, has an opportunity to do that.
Look, I'm going to stick home with, he's not on this list, but he's a guy that, will probably fall in, that 6th round type, probably round per se. And guys, we know him all too well. We've talked about him on this show when we were talking Ball State football. Jarrett Patterson, running back out of Buffalo. The MAC has consistently, and I say this consistently, produced good to, dare I say, great NFL talent. I mean, you look at guys like Ben Roethlisberger. How you view him now, I guess, is maybe a little different, but Antonio Brown, Khalil Mack, Will and Zach, you guys know about him all too well, coming from Buffalo in general has produced, I mean, some damn good NFL talent already. So Julian Edelman coming from Kent State. The MAC is loaded with NFL talent. And I think that Jarrett Patterson, from watching him, I always like to say, I don't care what the sport is, nothing beats the eye test. And we have seen Jarrett Patterson run rampant over basically anyone he faced. Ball State did a tremendous job of shutting him down in the MAC championship game. That was the first time basically in his career where he's been shut down. He is an explosive runner. The stats don't just look what he did. And I think the MAC had 6 games last year. I think it was 6. His numbers were stupid for just playing 6 games. Over 1,000 yards rushing, 20 some odd touchdowns, I think. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I think Jarrett Patterson is the next guy in line to have success from the Mid-American Conference. I mean, they have a long lineage of it. for being a group of five school, but they continue basically every single draft to produce damn good NFL talent. I think Jarrett Patterson's next in line for that.
You mentioned Jarrett Patterson. I also hope that one of my good friends with Ball State with our football team, Caleb Huntley, can also get
Yep.
on an NFL roster, and I think he can really elevate the backfield of an NFL roster. So
Definition of a workhorse.
yeah, can really hope that that Huntley, like you said, in those late rounds, 6th round, 7th round, even, so at least I hope a team gives him a chance to bring up on their roster. Would love to see, a not only a friend but a Ball State Cardinal. Love to see our Ball State Cardinals represented in the NFL as well. So again, that's another name that you mentioned, Patterson. That's another name from the MAC that really popped into my head as a potential late round draft pick that could make a splash and a big impact on any team on any roster that Huntley gets hopefully potentially picked by in this year's draft. But we've talked about the draft. We that's coming up on Thursday. I know, like I said, I've mentioned Zach, Will, Cody, and myself will be tuned in all 100% with our phones, with on TV, and just gonna be just excited to see what the draft holds. I know last year they did it out of Roger Goodell's basement. This year they're doing it in Cleveland, Ohio. So I know there's a lot of Trevor Lawrence. A lot of these top picks have said they're staying at home. Or Trevor said he's going to spend it with his Clemson family, and he's going to spend it with Dabo Swinney in the Clemson team room, and some of his teammates' family, things of that nature. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how the draft plays out here. But I do want to now kind of transition into because not only this is why I love this time of the year, because not only do you have the draft, you have the MLB, you have the NBA, the NBA play-in tournaments coming up soon here, creeping up on us, and so. But I do want to transition into, I mentioned the MLB, and round 2 of the Cubs and the Braves here. They're starting off in this today's the first game of this 4-game series, and I think I just saw that Dansby Swanson on my ESPN, he hit a homer, so I think it's like 5-4 if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
Braves.
I have it on right now.
Yeah.
As we're
So
recording.
when you think about the last series, and you also the last time that the Braves and Cubs met, and you think about the last series where both teams, the Braves and the Cubs, both got swept. The Brewers shut the Cubs in a shutout as well. The Brewers shut the Cubs out on Sunday 6-0 to win that series, and then the D-backs, the Arizona Diamondbacks, had back-to-back shutouts against Atlanta yesterday to win that series. Or Sunday, excuse me, to win that series. So what are the key, when you look at this 4-game series, what are the kind of keys to victory for both teams? Cody, for your Braves, and then Will and Zach for the Cubbies to clinch this series overall?
Well, I think both parties will be content if since it's a 4-game series, no team. Well, I would like the Braves to probably take 3 out of 4. A sweep would be amazing. I'll be content with 2. The Braves are. It seems like, and I can probably Will and Zach probably feel the same way with the Cubs. It seems like it's finally when they turn a corner, and you're like, all right, yeah, let's start building some momentum and get things going. The train derails because I don't know what got into Atlanta over the weekend against Arizona, but it was atrocious to say the least. They didn't score a run in 14 innings. I mean that's just flat out not going to win you a baseball game. And to make matters worse, it didn't officially count in the record books, and it won't count. But Madison Bumgarner threw a no-hitter in 7 innings against the Braves. So the offense, excluding Ronald Acuna Jr., who is still playing at an MVP level. He's just gotten back he played the Diamondback series, returning from an abdominal injury, only missed, I think, 2 games or whatever. He's basically the entire offense right now. He's batting, I think, like 350, tied for the National League, tied for the Major League Baseball in home runs with 7. And I think I sent it to our group chat one day, and I'm pretty sure it still applies. You look at the Braves statistical leaders, Ronald Acuna Jr., Ronald Acuna Jr., Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, it's basically every statistical category you think of, he leads them in. So Freeman, the rest are Ozuna, Albies. They're putting up decent numbers, but batting average wise, they're struggling. Some are struggling to hit 200. So the offense as a whole has got to get it going tonight. Yeah. As we're recording this on Monday, Braves got up 4-0, but then you think, okay, that's a decent run lead for Charlie Morton. But then he allowed a grand slam to Chris Bryant, and it's a nothing ball game. Thankfully, Dansby Swanson, like you mentioned, Josh, just put him ahead with a solo homer, but that's nice to see. But you want to see him actually, hold on to a damn lead. That's kind of been a struggle too. It's just major inconsistencies right now. I think the key is, I can't point to one specific thing. It's all around. The pitching's got to be slightly better. The bullpen's got to be the bullpen has not been that great this year. I feel nervous every time I see basically someone under the bullpen come out, and our starters haven't been, it's hit or miss some games. It's just the team as a whole is not playing consistent baseball, besides Ronald Acuna. He, in this series, I think that the offense looks like they're starting to get it together in game 1, so hopefully that can continue. But overall, it's basically just consistency. I'm not worried yet. Is it frustrating at times? The Braves are 9-12 right now, and thankfully, I talked about how competitive the NL East will be. The Braves are only 2 games out of first place because no one is stepping up in that division. And I think basically everyone's just beating the crap out of each other and beating kind of, taking 1 out of 2, then 2 out of 1, or 2 out of 3. Some are getting swept. No team in that division is playing consistent baseball. So the Braves are still right there. I mean, put together a quality week, a quality, few weeks, and boom, you're in first place in the division. And then maybe you can run away with it. So main thing's just consistency all the way around, from top to bottom, from starter to reliever to the rest of the starting lineup. Like I said, though, I'm not terribly worried right now because we keep saying this when we've talked baseball. At the start of the season, I know Will and Zach have mentioned it too. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's 162 games. So now if they're starting to play this way come, the latter stages of June and going into July, yeah, we can have a conversation about how I'm worried. But I'm not right now. So, and hopefully for the sanity of this podcast, we can split and we can all be winners, I guess. And so I'll be content with a split, but Wouldn't mind more, but a split would do for me.
Oh, Cody, for me,
How
they
about
have
them Cubbies?
sanity. For me, they have sanity, Cody, Yash, and Zach. I'm going to need the Bears to not blow it in the draft. I'm going to need the Cubs not to blow this series. Can I go 2 for 2 or even one
This is
for
this
one?
this is a big
Unfortunately, I
week
don't
for you,
feel
Will.
good.
This is a
Yeah, I
big
mean,
big week for you.
usually Will's kind of in a crabby, angry, spicy mood, which I am again today. Um, I'm probably gonna be disappointed and suffering when I come on next week. But no, look, as I was recording this podcast right now with the first game of the series going on, and it's been great. I mean, it's 5-4 Braves at the moment, couple home runs going back and forth with the score. It's just and a grand slam. This is what I was kind of hoping to get from this series again, just like the last one. And the Cubs offense has kind of come to life here ever since last week. Yeah, we saw it with putting up 13 against the Braves in the one game the Cubs won in that series. We saw the Cubs crush the Mets a few days later, 16-4, and then they crushed the Brewers a couple days later, 15-2. So I mean, you got two great outings where they hit double digits with with the runs. So the offense is coming to life. And now it's like we just went from, we're on like a teeter totter where it's like, okay, the pitching staff was great at the beginning of the season. Now they suck. And now the offense has awoken, which is great partially there. But yeah, Zach Davies in this game right now, okay, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 innings pitched, 3 walks. He's already got 72 pitches here at the count in the top of the fourth. So his night's probably going to be an early one. And it's just, that's what's frustrating when you come out here and you're scoring 15, 16 runs on a couple of occasions, and then your starting pitching fails you in the first inning. They allow 4 earned runs like in this game that's going on right now. That stuff has to stop. And why I think that the Braves have a good chance of winning this series again. I'm going to predict them to win this series because it's really going to come down to the better pitching, because as we've seen, both offenses know how to take it to the starting pitchers. Well, Jake Arrieta, who had another fantastic start yesterday, it got ruined. A great quality start ruined because the Cubs couldn't play offense and score runs yesterday. Will not be appearing in this series just because of how the days go. Where the odds are he's probably going to start the series on Friday against the Reds. So Zach Davies is getting roughed up right now. Trevor Williams, you kind of get a good outing from him, then a shaky one. So, and then you got Kyle Hendricks coming up again. Everybody other than Jake Arrieta on the starting rotation has given you a mixed bag. And it's not, like I said, it's not looking good for Davies right now. Hendricks was impressive a couple of days ago. I feel like maybe the Cubs could get the win on Wednesday. I'm not feeling good today with Davies. Trevor Williams, like I said, is a mixed bag. And even Edward Alzole is 0-2 on the year so far. It was better in his start against the Brewers a couple of days ago over the weekend, but I don't know if I trust him against the high-powered offense and bats that Atlanta's lineup has. So honestly, I think the Cubs may go 1-3 in this series because they may be able to score runs, but I just don't know if the pitching staff is going to be able to keep Atlanta from scoring 5-6 runs per game. And it's not a great look when you're allowing a handful of runs in the first inning or two. So that's been an issue too, of just really sloppy, poor starts by the starting pitcher of whoever it is in that game. So I think it's really going to come down to the pitching staff, and the bullpen's been a little bit shaky at times too, outside of Craig Kimbrell. So yeah, I'm just praying that in this week that the Cubs offense could continue to stay hot like it's been. But can we get a good quality 5 innings at least from Trevor Williams? Can Kyle Hendricks pitch another solid game on Wednesday and get us, help us get a victory? I mean, I'm feeling like a 1-3 record could be coming in this series, because I just don't think we have the pitching staff to be strong enough to take on a loaded lineup like Atlanta does.
Well, I definitely don't think we have that. And Zach Davies, to add on to this, continues to disappoint me. I said this in the last show, I'm pretty sure. If not, I've said it recently, that he continues to be one of the most disappointing parts of this lineup. Hendricks redeemed himself a little bit in the Mets series. Honestly, the Cubs could have won the Brewers series if they had found a way to score a run late in that second game. And actually, of course, David Ross getting thrown out in that second game for what was a terrible first pitch. They had a runner in scoring position. I understand. And, someone could argue it's one pitch, but hey, going 1-0 on a pitch is better than 0-1 for any batter. So I can assure you that of course, Jake Merznick would have definitely liked to have that pitch back to give them a chance to maybe get to the top of that lineup, if you will. But, I mean, the Cubs have been on fire as of late, for most part, on the offensive front after we bashed them on this show. Kudos to them, honestly. I'm loving it. Chris Bryant looks like the Chris Bryant I was expecting to see these last few years. He's finally healthy. He is one of the tops in the MLB for at least batting averages, as well as, we have 3 batters on this Cubs roster that are actually some of the close to the top in the home run category too. Baez, Bryant, and Wilson Contreras all have 6 home runs. That's just one below many of the 7 home run hitters right now in the MLB. But I mean, hey, offense has been kind of lightening up for the Cubs. I've been a little bit impressed. So, I give them a little bit of a pat on the back, a small golf clap. We've been seeing some production. Thank God. Now can we get more consistent pitching from the guys that I should not be worrying about? Zach Davies, I should not be worrying about in this rotation. Adbert Alohe, I definitely understand. I am not expecting much from a back-end starter in the rotation. I'm expecting Zach Davies to come in and be a consistent presence at the mound. And it's getting a little ridiculous that we're not getting what we're seeing. I already dealt enough with this whole with Yu Darvish coming to the Cubs and having a lackluster start only to end his tenure there and to be moving on. I don't want to see the same thing. I'm almost feeling like it's a curse that Davies just picked something up from there when they swap places. But to me, Davies wasn't that bad coming here. I'm just a little surprised that we have seen such a lackluster start to his tenure in Chicago, and things got to kind of change around. Again, Jake Arrieta, 1 year, $9 million deal, and he is the most impressive pitcher right now in this rotation. He, to me, is the Cubs ace right now. It is definitely not Zach Davies. And I mean, Brian Hendricks is supposed to be, and he kind of got himself off the mat against the Mets, but honestly, I don't see him as our ace. It's definitely Jake Arrieta. But to me, it's got to be, of course, Zach Davies. And honestly, against some of with the Mets or with the Brewers series in particular, I mean, most of that also went down to a few flubs in, of course, in the relief pitching department, definitely in the 6-0 loss that came before we went into the Braves series. It was only a 1-0 game. Arrieta had helped keep it, and it was consistent. And then the floodgates opened up in the 9th. What are you going to do? That game's a lot closer than it shows on paper, and I'm not even trying to bash the relief pitching that bad, because honestly, they've done pretty well. I'm more upset with the starting pitching, is what I'm saying, and the batting's gotten better. So really, my eyes are fully fixed on starting pitching. Get that rotation in order and get yourself into a more consistent flow. I know with pitching, it's all about finding your rhythm. Zach Davies, you better find your rhythm really fast, because for me, I am losing patience with you the most right now, because I expect the most from you, considering you're replacing a guy that was borderline Cy Young Award winner last season. Pick it up, man. It's time to get going.
Yeah, in terms of picking it up, I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying to this offense. I mean, excluding Ronald Acuna Jr., who is batting .371, 7 homers, 16 RBIs right now. Guys, let me just riddle you off numbers of guys who are playing well below what they should. Freddie Freeman, he has 5 homers, 10 RBIs. I mean, that's fine. 205 batting average. Freddie Freeman is you can pencil him in to bat 300 each year. I mean, he's just done that. I mean, then you look at Travis d'Arnaud, batted, I think, upper 270s last year, batting 190. Marcell Ozuna, star free agent acquisition, who, by the way, we signed him to a contract extension. So I really hope he starts living up to said extension, batting 184. Dansby Swanson just hit a home run, so maybe that catapults some things. Let's hope. Batting 173. Ozzy Albies, 164. It's not good. It's borderline unacceptable for the star power that we have in this lineup. But at the same time, if they're putting up these numbers, like I said, in June and July, I'm ready to have a serious talk. But I mean, it's only the first month. Still, we're about wrapping up the first month. So every team has a um, every team, every player kind of has a bad month. So we'll see. Hoping they can pick it up, and maybe this series once again kind of jumpstarts things.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, hopefully the you guys are able basically tie the series, get 2 games apiece, or and so we'll will you can have a nice little no nice little piece knowing that
Let me
the
come on here next week and be happy.
yeah.
You know,
No, I mean
I
you'll have a nice little peaceful moment knowing the Cubs have tie the series going into the draft, because
Will
I know
can't have a peaceful moment because knowing the Bears will
yeah,
probably mess up the draft.
you'll be going in
probably
you'll be
will.
going into the draft. I know you'll be going into Thursday really nervous knowing who Chicago picks up, and I know Zach as well.
it's a huge week for that team
I
too.
Yeah.
really think, as Will's saying, that they will indeed trade up. It's just the
Yeah.
evidence is mounting. I think they're getting really desperate here.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you got plenty of pressure. We all knew pressure was going to be on them.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's just going to be continuously added. This is going to be basically the make it or break it draft for them. No one wants to see a dud because it just adds on more and more issues for fans of the franchise.
Yeah.
It's not like the fans are already disgruntled enough with the McCaskies and their ownership decisions. So you better hope that the guys that they are trusting with an 8-8 season and getting themselves out of a losing streak, that's what they're proud of. Remember that.
Yeah.
They were proud of getting out of the losing streak
Yeah.
and just squeaking by because Arizona had too many injury issues and wasn't consistent enough with that roster. There you have it, folks. And so I sit here and I am nervous as all hell for that case.
Look, here's the thing
yeah.
with the Bears, if you don't mind me interjecting, Zach, because let me just say this, because I know I get hard on the Bears, and I've been pushing, especially on this podcast, the
Yeah.
last couple of weeks about them acquiring a quarterback and ideally trading up and getting one of the top 4 or 5 guys because they really potentially could. I really, at least, even if they stay at 20, I just hope that I hear that, it's like it at least is like the Russell Wilson thing again, where they did at least legit try. Because if they are really sitting there thinking they're going to be fine with Nick Foles and Andy Dalton,
Yeah.
and they're going to pass on another year of getting a guy that, even if you don't want to play the guy the kid you draft right away in the first year or first 6 games, whatever, you at least there's nothing stopping you. And I've been saying this every week too, and even in conversations with people off any of the podcasts I do, that the Bears have the resources to move up. You don't have to. I mean, I don't think you draft out of the first round. I mean, this is the first year in like 3 years since 2018 that they've had a first round pick. It's also been the first time they've drafted well, if they do draft a quarterback or an offensive player in general. I mean, this would be the first time in maybe like 5 or 6 years that they've drafted an offensive player. Like, if the McCaskies want to earn our trust again, if Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace want us to earn their trust again, or you know what I mean, you want them to earn our trust, they need to stop. They need to start cutting ties with some of these traditions of always drafting defense, drafting out of the first round, and trading away picks. I mean, trade away some picks to move up and go after an offensive guy. I mean, even if they did something wild and traded up and got Kyle Pitts or one of the other top wide receivers, I mean, still think it's a little bit off to go after another tight end or wide receiver so soon. I think the quarterback is the more pressing issue, but you have an opportunity. And yeah, Mac Jones may not be all that. Maybe he's overrated. Maybe Trey Lance is overrated. But if these guys are wanted by numerous teams and they're all in rumors of teams that are looking to get them within the first 5, 6, 8, 10 picks in the top 10, essentially, why not go for it? Ryan Pace has actually been pretty solid at drafting guys in the 4th and 5th round. Eddie Jackson, Jordan Howard, those are 2 guys that come to mind instantly over the last couple of years. When Ryan Pace essentially went through the rebuilding phase of this team, he was great at drafting late round talent. And
Yes, he was.
something that nobody talks about is they just re-signed Tashawn Gibson too. So they have both safeties back there again from last year. So that's a need that doesn't necessarily have to be addressed in the draft or early in the draft. So they're knocking out positions, even signing what's his name? The wide receiver the Bears just signed.
Marquise Goodwin.
Well, and I like that signing too.
So now your need for a wide receiver can maybe wait till a later round. So that's why I think it's a no-brainer to try to go for a quarterback. And if Atlanta's really looking to trade that 4th pick, call them. Call them at least.
I mean,
you have to.
good luck. They're not gonna. I don't think Mac Jones is gonna be there anymore. I think right now it seems like more of the talk with San Francisco is so focused on Mac Jones. Trey Lance is in that discussion, but I see a lot more Mac Jones conversation, which is
I can't believe Justin Fields is going to drop. Honestly, if he really may drop, and that's who I want. I kind of want the Bears. I've always kind of fallen in love secretly with Justin Fields. Honestly, if he's available, I'll take him.
I don't trust the system he comes from, and this has been a thing with me with Ohio State QBs. It is a simplistic system for quarterbacks, which is why I'm scared. I love the intangibles of Justin Fields. God damn it, I love the intangibles that man brings. But Ohio State is built to make the easy reads and has the talent every year to do that. It's generally a deep ball first scheme that allows the QB to get the ball out and not have to make a decision too fast or too much stay in the pocket. That is how it usually has been. And that's why
there's plenty of tape, Zach, to go and that's
I'm not the only one saying that.
I don't know if you were I get the scheme, but don't be knocking Justin Fields because there's been plenty of, I think, by the way, shout out Darren Orlovsky, who breaks down all of this film. One morning I was watching him. The notion that Justin Fields can't go through reads is just asinine. It's a dumb statement. Believe me, just because he throws that his first read is wide open, doesn't mean he can't go through the reads. There's been plenty of instances where he has, but don't fault the quarterback for, if Chris Olave or if Garrett Wilson was running a post pattern and absolutely blows by their defender. I don't think you can fault Justin Fields for doesn't go through his reads.
Right. But then if we're talking talent, then Mac Jones shouldn't be faulted for having all that talent over in Alabama.
Yeah, you're right. I just don't believe. No, Alabama and Ohio State, pressure is on both Mac Jones and Justin Fields to perform because there is a history. The history you bring up, that is a very good point. I'll own up to that as an Ohio State fan. I was excited about Braxton Miller. I was excited about Cardale Jones. I still think Dwayne Haskins can succeed. It has to be in the right situation. Like I've said plenty of times on this podcast.
I think the fact that he got out of Washington is really it'll be a really good situation for him.
He still stayed near home though in Pittsburgh.
Needs to be
Pennsylvania is not that far away.
That's true.
But we'll see where that goes. But they touched on the Bears. There was a report today about the Patriots potentially going up and getting him from Bleacher Report, which I would love. But also there's another thing that's been thrown in the wrenches a little bit is, everyone's expecting, if you trade picks on draft night. Here's another one that it depends on where they would move up to, but for the most part, I think I'd be okay with. The Stephon Gilmore rumors have been out there for quite a while now. And he's on an expiring contract. So people have maybe brought up, do the Patriots try and trade Stephon Gilmore and maybe a future pick or something like that and move up? I say if you go and get your quarterback, I'd do it. I think the corners are one. I think you could get a corner in this draft. And two, think maybe at a later point, and you can also get your quarterback. Because as much as I want to give Cam Newton a second chance, it's a little dicey. I mean, we'll see what you know. I mean, if they draft a quarterback, they draft a quarterback. I mean, or if they go up or if they stay pat at 15, talk about pressure. You talked about for the McCaskies and whatnot on how how they've generally been good at drafting, and so is Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy and whatnot. Bill Belichick hasn't. That if he has a weakness, specifically skill players, quarterback, I would consider it's not the top of skill position players, but it's still a definite requirement. Good Lord, I remember all the quarterbacks we've tried. I mean, Jacoby Brissett. Good God, I still remember Ryan Mallett.
Funny thing with Mallett, he'll actually be playing in a upcoming league called the Spring League. That's going to be starting here next week.
You go through, Patriot fans can probably riddle you off. You have Ryan Mallett, Jarrett Stidham, Jimmy Garoppolo, all these guys that ultimately you can say Jimmy Garoppolo has probably been the most successful, with maybe Jacoby Brissett right behind him, but those were not with the Patriots. They were with other teams. So the pressure is on Belichick to find a quarterback. I mean, there just is. So there's pressure on. It's kind of what I like about this draft is, there's pressure on. Well, Yash, you're sitting there, but the Titans just handed off to freaking Derrick Henry 50 freaking times a game.
Mr. 2K yards.
Yeah, you're fine there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
well, let me ask you guys this.
Yeah.
So, this is another thing that I find interesting that not a lot of teams do, but we saw it work successfully with most recently the Kansas City Chiefs, where when they drafted Patrick Mahomes, which maybe was a little bit of a gift because the Bears were idiots, but they started Alex Smith during his rookie year, so they gave Patrick Mahomes a year to learn the system, get a feel for what it's like to be an NFL quarterback in terms of preseason, which I know is not 100% truly accurate depiction of what it's going to be like to play 16, 17 weeks in the NFL, because you're playing second, third, fourth stringers, people trying to earn jobs. But the point is, you're out there on the field, you're out there wearing the uniform, you're trying out the playbook and learning how to play with these guys. Outside of Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, who are going to more than likely start right away for Jacksonville and the Jets because they don't have anybody else to put in there. I mean, Gardner Minshew, I guess, in Jacksonville, but it's like, okay, really? Is he really going to contend that much with Trevor Lawrence? I don't really think so. Even Mac Jones, if you still got Jimmy G and you're going to hang on to him, Mac Jones doesn't have to play right away. The Bears, if they get Trey Lance or Justin Fields, do they have to necessarily play right away? I mean, I don't really know how, if they get one of those guys.
Depends on how the Red Rifle does,
And I don't know how long Mr. Red Rifle is going to be able to hold on to the job. I mean, realistically, who knows? But the point is, Cody, you bring this up all the time too, and it's a good point. Some of your success depends on where you get drafted, and you and Zach were debating a little bit about Justin Fields and what praise should he get and what some of his criticisms. Well, look at it this way: every one of these quarterbacks are going to need to adjust a little bit from the college style to the NFL style, but that's on your coaching staff. And so far, Matt Nagy, even though he wasn't here when they made the decision to get Mitchell Trubisky, the point is, he failed in getting Mitchell Trubisky to improve at all. I mean, 2018 turns out to be a fluke of a season. So there's your pressure too on your coaching staffs and not just on your quarterbacks. Is can you mold and fix the issues that maybe a rookie quarterback comes onto the organization with? So that's just, food for thought.
And I know, Cody, you said if Justin Fields gets drafted to New England, you're just going to put the name Fields over the Cam Newton
I've already
number 1 jersey.
Cam Newton jersey.
Yeah. So and Cam Newton's jersey number is number 1, and that's kind of where before we end the night, just want to get your thoughts on the NFL. They're relaxing the rules on jersey numbers to where now you can do single-digit numbers. on your jersey instead of double-digit numbers. So how do you feel about the NFL kind of relaxing those rules? I know Tom Brady was on Instagram the other day, was just ranting about how he hates it. But kind of get your thoughts on that before we end the night.
Well, I mean, this is one, I guess, criticism I'll have of Tom Brady. And yes, I will criticize Tom Brady. No, hell is not frozen over. But as Zach, for our YouTube audience, is covering his mouth as he's shut. But Tom, I really don't understand your point. I make it harder to identify players. I really don't see. If you have good vision, which you're a freaking quarterback, I know you have good vision. You should be able to see the jersey number and tell guys, make sure, well, one, your offensive line, block the guys in front of you, and maybe like a Mike linebacker or whoever's coming in and blitzing or whatever, you should be able to see what number they're wearing. That's all I got to say about that. I mean, it's I really don't see his argument or whatever. Although I do like the NFL doing this. I mean, why were there restrictions on numbers in the first place? That's kind of a question that I have. I think so often on this show we've referred to the NFL as the no fun league. This kind of makes it flip a little bit. And I think I want to say was Patrick Peterson, I think, was it released today. He said he's going to bring back number 7.
Yes, he will. And that's going to be
Devontae
very
Parker's
jarring
back,
for me to see a cornerback spot.
Yeah, Devontae Parker is trying to wear 6 in Miami, like LeBron James's practice jersey.
I mean, so it makes it fun like this. I mean, everyone has, if you're an athlete, you have, for whatever rhyme, reason, or whatever, you have a number that you love. And maybe if you're fortunate enough to get to the NFL, you weren't able to, maybe some of them weren't able to wear that number. So this just allows them to have more flexibility, more fun, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, there's nothing really wrong with it. You know what? It will take some getting used to. I think for us as fans, I know Patrick Peterson on the Vikings is going to go back to number 7, which I believe he wore in college. So that's where I'm going to get confused. I'm going to think number 7 is, they got another quarterback or a punter out there or something running at wide receiver. So that might trip me up a little bit. And I mean, if it trips up, viewers, it's going to trip up broadcasters maybe a little bit. It's going to trip up the players. So I can understand why Tom Brady's a little bit like, I'm getting old. I want to keep winning, but I don't want to start having to think about, it's easy for me to win, but I don't want to start thinking about who's who with jersey numbers. But that's something that it's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not really the end of the world. I'm okay with it. Come knock on my door, wake me up and ask me how I feel about overtime rules and the NFL. That I'll yell and complain about.
For the extra inning rule in MLB.
Yeah.
Oh, the OT rules. Although they did change those in college now.
Yeah.
Those
Which
are going to
is
be
bull crap.
Here's my take on that real quick. This is going the pattern of all about length of game. This is exactly what this is playing into. It's the same thing we were discussing with the whole MLB extra innings and stuff like that. It's just the NCAA, in my opinion, saying, let's finish this, which to me, I'm like, come on. College football's OT's
college
great.
Football overtime is the most one of the most exciting
we
things.
can leave that alone.
Remember the LSU Texas A&M game?
Yeah, the 7 overtime game.
There's
that was
7
so much
overtimes,
fun.
like
There's
74, 72.
Great OT games.
Yeah.
I mean, defensive
the
coordinators
NFL
are pulling their hair
like
out,
that.
but
Yeah. But
that's exactly what they're playing into, though. It's like we'll add the tension, but we'll also take away the length, which I don't like.
Yeah,
that. It just.
I know we're about to wrap up, but there is one kind of fun fact I would like to provide. I never provide enough fun facts. So this is more of, I guess, a combination of fun fact, but also on this day type of thing. On this day, 2 years ago exactly, this podcast, which was a radio show at the time, went through its final broadcast at WCRD at Ball State. It was Yash and I holding down the fort there. I got that Facebook memory today, and I was watching the video. I was like, hit me right in the feels, right in the gut. I was like, man. And so just a quick shout out to us
Yeah.
for continuing this and going from a radio show to a podcast, and we still have the godfather of the whole thing here, which is Zach over here, who never forget the day you walked up to me and or Ben Safarbi and I and asked us if we wanted to get back on the airwaves and join you because
Yeah.
or Yash, I
You
think you
know-
had an internship, but then you came back, then Codey started coming on, so it's everybody here had a role in that, and it's just cool to see that it's where it is today. And shout out to anybody that's an OG follower or listener
Yeah.
or viewer, however you're taking in this podcast. If you've been following us since then, thank you for that. But I just figured today's kind of a anniversary and a milestone, so just a quick shout out to us.
Good fact. And you know what? I appreciate that. I actually have to pass that to Yash because if it isn't for Yash finding me, the show doesn't exist, and nor does our partnerships or friendships here with this program. So, because
Oh, yeah,
even
that's
before
true, 'cause
that, it was the Yash and Zach Sports Hour, and
yeah.
True.
that's what then transferred into Beyond the Press Box when we expanded the roster for
Yeah.
that for those years. So
Yeah, because I think I remember my freshman year, your sophomore year, Zach. Before we hit out a quick story here that I think through Facebook is how we first
yeah,
got to know each other.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because
that's-
that was kind of that was the old group, the old
Facebook
WCRD
groups.
group, which by the way last I remember got shut out or something. Like they just
Yeah.
can't, they just completely canned it, which
Yeah.
sucks because I enjoyed that, by the way.
Yeah.
And that was
But-
just a shout out to make a show.
Yeah, no, but yeah, Will, thank you for that fun fact. I appreciate that, and yeah, I mean, excited to see. And we took this from a radio show. Now we're took this on a podcast through Zach's help. We're on the Unhinged Sports Network now. We're on a network, so excited to see us grow and as a podcast. Excited to see us grow on the network itself. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for this edition of Beyond the Press Box. Thank you for listening. To stay up to date on content, to even join our debate, like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Beyond the Press Box and look for our cool red logo. To listen to more great episodes, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, Beyond the Press Box on YouTube. And we're also a proud member of the Unhinged Sports Network. So make sure to go to unhingedsn.com to listen to our podcast and many other great podcasts as well. I know Zach has his football specific podcast called Gridiron Gallery on there Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern on the Unhinged Sports Network. So, but with that being said, we want to thank you for tuning in today and have a great rest of your week.